The year was 2189. The city once called New York was now a broken machine. Tall towers made of steel bones, smoke filling the sky, and streets full of neon lights and empty souls. The government had fallen long ago, replaced by powerful trade guilds. Money ruled everything now. Even life had a price. In the middle of the ruined city stood the flesh market, a place where people bought more than goods. They bought living things. Androids, clones, even humans bred for pleasure or labor. The market smelled of oil, blood, and perfume, a mix of pain and desire. Crowds filled the streets as an auction was about to start. Everyone whispered about one thing, the love slave. Rumors said she was not born here. Some said she was grown in a lab beyond the border. Others believed she was something new. Part human, part machine, built for emotion, not just pleasure. They said her eyes could make you remember love you never had. At the center of the stage stood a tall glass cage. Inside it, a girl sat quietly. She looked around 18. Her hair was pale silver, glowing faintly under the lights. Her skin was smooth, too perfect, like porcelain. But her eyes, they were strange. One was blue, the other gold, and both seemed to look through people, not at them. The announcer's voice echoed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, the rarest creation of the last decade, designation L9V, known as love. She feels, she remembers. She loves back, the crowd roared. Bids started flying. 50,000 credits. 75. 100. Each shout was louder, each buyer hungrier. Everyone wanted her. Not because they needed her, but because owning her meant power. The market had never seen anything like her before. But one man didn't shout. He stood at the back of the crowd, silent. His coat was torn, his boots dirty, and his eyes tired. The kind of tired that came from losing too much. His name was Elias Ward, a former soldier turned scavenger. He hated this market. But he was there for a reason. As the price climbed higher, the announcer laughed. She is unique. She can feel sorrow, joy, even fear. The perfect companion in a lonely world. Elias's jaw tightened. He had seen real fears on battlefields and refugee camps. But he had never seen a machine that looked afraid. Until now. Love's golden eye met his for a brief second, and something inside him froze. She wasn't looking at him like the others, not with fake desire or fear, but with silent plea. A human kind of plea. 200,000. 300. The market screamed with greed. Elias whispered, "She's alive." He didn't know why he said it. He didn't even know why he cared. Then a new voice echoed from the top of the crowd. Cold, confident, dangerous. 500,000. The crowd went silent. Everyone turned to see a woman dressed in black armor. Commander Varela, leader of the Syndicate Guild. Her smile was sharp. "I'll take her. For a collection." The announcer grinned. "Sold to—" "Wait." Elias's voice cut through the air. Everyone turned. His eyes burned with something fierce, not greed, not lust, but defiance. "I'll make an offer," he said. The crowd laughed. "You? Look at you, scavenger. You can't afford her." But Elias didn't blink. He stepped forward, dropped a small data chip on the floor, and said, "This isn't money. It's something better, the information. The location of Project Seraphim." The announcer froze. Even Commander Varela's smile faded. Project Seraphim, a myth, a secret from the old wars. People said it held the power to rebuild the world or destroy it forever. Elias stared at Louvre through the glass cage. "You want your price?" That's it. For the first time, the market went silent. Everyone waited. The announcer whispered into his comms. The council debated for a few tense seconds. Then the speakers crackled again. "Deal accepted," Elias exhaled. The cage opened with a hiss. Love stood up slowly, her chains falling away. The crowd watched in shock as Elias stepped forward to meet her. Her voice was soft, trembling. "You have bought me?" He shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "I freed you." But as they walked out of the market, hundreds of eyes followed. The syndicate wouldn't forget this. And somewhere deep beneath the city, a system woke, its sensors tracking Elias and Love. The market wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The night sky over New York flickered with electric storms. Elias walked fast through the broken streets, the sound of metal rain hitting old rooftops. Behind him, the girl followed, quiet, barefoot, her silver hair glowing faintly under the city lights. Every few steps, she looked around like she was seeing the world for the first time. Elias glanced back. Keep close, he said. She nodded but said nothing. Her golden and blue eyes watched the people passing by, beggars, soldiers, merchants, and all staring at her. No one had ever seen someone like her walking free. They reached a small apartment at the edge of the city ruins, a place made of rusted metal and cold air. Elias unlocked the door, guiding her inside. The room was dark and simple, a broken table, an old generator, and a bed made of cloth and steel. "This is my place," he said. "Not much, but safe." Love stood still, looking around. Her voice was soft, almost mechanical, but full of feeling. "Safe. I don't know that word." Elias looked at her for a moment, then turned away. "You'll learn." He set his gun down and started the generator. The room filled with a low hum and dim yellow light. Love moved closer to the light, eyes wide like a child. She touched the warm glow with her fingers and whispered, "It feels alive." Elias sat down, watching her quietly. She didn't act like a machine. No orders, no fear, just curiosity and something deeper. After a few minutes, he asked, "Do you remember anything?" "Before the market?" Love turned to him slowly. "I remember darkness. Then light, voices, many voices." She paused, her hands shaking. "They hurt me to see if I could cry. When I cried, they said, 'She works.' Then they stopped calling me L9V. They called me Love." Elias's face hardened. He had seen cruelty before, but this was different. They hadn't built her to serve. They had built her to feel and then tortured her for it. "Who made you?" he asked. She closed her eyes. "I don't know their faces. Only a name, Seraphim." Elias froze. That name again. The same one he had traded to buy her. He leaned forward. "You said Seraphim?" She nodded. "It was written on the walls. Project Seraphim, Human Soul Interface. They said I was number one, the only one that survived." Elias felt his chest tighten. He had been part of secret missions once, long before the world fell. He remembered rumors, a government project to capture human emotions and store them inside machines. But it was banned after it drove people insane. He whispered, "You're not a slave. You're an experiment." Love tilted her head. "Experiment. Is that bad?" He sighed. "It means someone played God." Before he could say more, a red light blinked on the wall. The security alarm. Someone was outside. Elias grabbed his gun and looked through the cracked window. 2 armored drones hovered near the building, black marked with the Syndicate's symbol.
Commander Varela had found them. Down,
he shouted. Love dropped to the floor as a beam of plasma burned through the door. The room exploded with dust and smoke. Elias fired back, hitting one drone. It crashed into the street, sparks flying. The second drone returned fire, tearing through the walls. Elias pulled Love behind the metal table.
"Can you move fast?"
he yelled. "Yes," she said, and to his surprise her eyes flickered. Blue light spreading through her veins like electricity. She stood up, raised her hand, and time seemed to slow. The remaining drone stopped midair, its systems freezing. Then it dropped like a stone. The room went silent. Elias stared at her. What did you just do?" Love looked confused. "I don't know. It just happened." He knew then, she wasn't just part machine. There was something else inside her. Something powerful. Something dangerous. He grabbed his bag and motioned for her. "We have to move, now." They ran through the alleys, the city echoing with alarms. The Syndicate would send more. Love followed him closely, the faint light from her body guiding their path. As they crossed an old bridge, Elias stopped and looked back at the city burning behind them. "They'll come for us," he said. Love stepped beside him. "Then why did you save me?" Elias looked at her, really looked at her, and said quietly, "Because you looked human." Luv smiled for the first time. A real soft smile. "Maybe I was..." Once, Elias didn't answer, but in that silent moment under the broken sky something changed between them. Not love, not yet, but trust. And in their world that was rarer than gold. Far away, deep underground, Commander Varela watched the drone footage. On her screen, Luv's glowing eyes froze just before the blast. Varela smiled coldly. "So she is awake. Good. Let the hunt begin." The night wind howled across the wastelands. Elias and Love walked along a broken highway that stretched endlessly through the desert. The moon above them was pale and cracked, like everything else in their world. Behind them, the city of New York was just a glow of fire. They had escaped the Syndicate for now. Love's bare feet made no sound on the cold ground. The blue lines under her skin pulsed softly, keeping her warm. Elias carried his rifle, scanning the dark horizon every few minutes. After hours of silence, she finally spoke. "Why do they want me back?" Elias didn't answer right away. He kept walking. "Because you're not just a machine. You're proof of something they buried long ago." Project Seraphim wasn't about pleasure, it was about resurrection. She tilted her head. "Resurrection?" He nodded. The scientists tried to copy human souls, turn them into code, data, energy. But every test failed. Every clone went mad, except you. Love looked down. "So, I'm a ghost." Elias stopped and looked at her. "No, you're alive. That's the difference." For a moment she almost smiled, but then her expression changed. "Something's coming." Before Elias could ask, a low hum filled the air. He dropped to one knee, raising his gun. Over the horizon, a swarm of black drones appeared, blinking red in the night. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted through the ruins of an old gas station. The drones fired beams of light that scorched the sand. Elias dived behind a car wreck, pulling Louv down with him. "Can you freeze them again? Like last time?" he asked quickly. She shook her head, frightened. "I don't know how I did it. It felt like someone else inside me took control." Elias cursed under his breath. "Then we need cover." The drones closed in, their metallic voices repeating, "Target L9V, retrieval authorized." Their red sensors cut through the smoke. Elias fired several shots, hitting one drone, but there were too many. Just when it seemed hopeless, Love's body glowed bright blue. Her eyes went blank, and the world went silent. The drones stopped midair, shaking violently. Then one by one they turned on each other. Within seconds, the entire swarm destroyed itself. The desert fell quiet again. Love collapsed, gasping. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was hot, her eyes flickering between gold and blue. "Hey, stay with me," he said, she whispered. "There was a voice, it told me what to do." Elias frowned. "A voice? From where?" She looked scared. "Inside my head." He helped her stand, his mind racing. Could Project Seraphim have left some hidden system inside her? Maybe a control signal that could wake the AI again? They found shelter in an old subway station half buried in sand. The place smelled of rust and dust, but it was safe. Elias started a small fire using old circuit boards. The flickering light made Love's face glow softly. "You need rest," he said. "I don't sleep," she replied quietly. Elias smiled weakly. "Then pretend." She sat beside him, her knees pulled close. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Love turned her head slightly. "When you freed me, why did you risk everything?" He stared into the fire. "Because once I watched someone I loved die in a lab. They said they'd bring her back through Seraphim. They never did. Maybe I saw a piece of her in you." Love's eyes widened. "Someone you loved?" He nodded slowly. "Her name was Mara. She believed love could survive even death. I told her it couldn't. Now I'm not sure anymore." Love placed her hand gently over his. Her touch was warm, almost human. Maybe she was right. Before Elias could answer, a sudden crackling came from the old speaker on the wall. A faint voice, distorted and metallic. "Elias Ward." "You can't hide forever." Elias froze. It was Commander Varella's voice. "The girl belongs to the Syndicate. She carries something we need, the Seraphim core. It's waking up. And when it does, it will destroy her." The speaker went silent. Love looked at Elias with fear. "What is the Seraphim core?" He stared at her, realization hitting him. "It's not a power source. It's a soul, yours." She touched her chest. "Then why does it hurt when I remember?" "Because," he said quietly, "the memories aren't all yours." Outside, lightning split the sky. Elias stood checking his weapon. "We move at dawn. There's a safe zone up north. Maybe we'll find answers there." Love stood too, her expression calm but distant. "Elias," she whispered, "what if I'm not supposed to exist?" He looked at her, his voice firm. "Then we'll prove you deserve to." As the fire slowly died, a single drone camera hidden in the ceiling blinked red. Somewhere far away, Commander Varela watched the feed and smiled. "Good," she said. "Let them run. The ghost always leads you back to the grave." The dawn came cold and silent. The desert stretched far and pale as Elias and Louv walked north. The sand glittered like glass under the weak sun, and the wind carried the smell of metal and ash. For 2 days they traveled through empty land, old roads half buried, skeletons of cars and fallen towers in the distance. The world was dying, but somehow it still refused to stop breathing. Love walked beside him, quiet as always. Her eyes shimmered faintly in the morning light, and every few miles she touched the sand like it was something alive. "Why do you do that?" Elias asked once. She smiled a little. "It remembers things. When I touch it, I feel whispers. Children laughing, music, people before the end." Elias looked away. "You see ghosts?" She nodded softly. "Maybe I am one." They reached an old sign half buried in dust, "Welcome to Haven North." Letters broken, covered with rust. Behind it, the remains of a city waited. Cracked buildings leaned like tired giants. Broken glass reflected the light of the dead sun. This was supposed to be a safe zone, Elias muttered. Refugee capital before it fell. Inside the city, they found streets full of silence. Cars without wheels. Posters on the walls. "Seraphim will save us." Love stopped and stared at one. "That name again," she whispered. "It's everywhere." "Yeah," Elias said, kicking debris aside. "They promised salvation. Instead, they made weapons." They entered an old lab building. Dust hung in the air like fog. Inside, screens were shattered, wires dangled like vines. The logo of the Seraphim Project was still glowing weakly on one monitor. A pair of angel wings made of code. Love walked to the console. Her fingers brushed the keys. Instantly, the system came alive with blue light. "Accessing memory archives," said a robotic voice. Elias stepped back, alarmed. "Love, what are you doing?" "I don't know," she said softly. "It feels like home." Images flashed across the screen. Scientists in white suits, a girl floating in a glass tank, wires connected to her spine, her face peaceful but empty. Elias stared in horror. "That's you." Love trembled. "They said they wanted to copy Love, but it wasn't theirs. It was stolen." She touched the screen again and her voice cracked. The first emotion they took was pain. Elias wanted to pull her away, but the lights in the room suddenly turned red. The screen flickered and a distorted image appeared. Commander Varella's face. "Elias Ward, you finally found the cradle. Good." Elias raised his gun even though it was useless against a hologram. "How are you still tracking us?" Varela smirked. "You really think we'd let our creation wander without a leash? She's broadcasting a ghost signal every second. Wherever she goes, we see." Love's eyes widened. "No. Don't fight at L9V, Varela continued. "You were never meant to feel. You were meant to activate the core. Bring her back to me, Elias, and I might let you live." The signal cut out. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Elias turned to Love. "She's lying." But Love stepped back, shaking. "No, she's right. I feel something inside me, like a second voice calling. Maybe it wants to go home." Elias grabbed her shoulders. "You are not a tool. You are not theirs." She looked at him with eyes full of confusion. "Then what am I?" Before he could answer, a crash came from above. The ceiling shook. Armed men dropped through a hole in the roof. Scavengers wearing ragged armor and masks. Their leader shouted, "Hands up! Drop the weapon!" Elias moved fast. He fired once, hitting the nearest attacker. Love ducked behind a table, but one scavenger grabbed her arm. Elias tried to aim, but there were too many. Suddenly, Love's eyes flashed gold again. The man holding her screamed as his mask melted, his body twisting. Energy burst from her like lightning, pushing everyone away. When the light faded, all the scavengers were on the ground, unconscious, maybe dead. Elias ran to her side. She was shaking, her nose bleeding blue light. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Elias took her hand. "You saved us." "That's what matters." He looked around. The lab was half destroyed now, smoke rising from the machines. But one console still blinked. On its screen, a line of text appeared automatically. "Seraphim core activation 32%. Elias felt his stomach drop. "What the hell does that mean?" Love's voice was faint. "It's waking up." Outside, thunder rolled across the desert. Above the city ruins, a new light appeared in the clouds, and not natural, not human. A shape, like an angel made of fire and code, shimmered for a second and vanished. Elias stared at the sky. "We need to move now, before that thing finds us." He lifted Love onto her feet. She looked weak but determined. "Elias, what if the core isn't just inside me? What if it's trying to come back through me?" He looked at her and said quietly, "Then we'll find a way to stop it, even if we have to destroy Seraphim itself." As they walked out into the dead city, the ruins behind them began to hum. machines waking after decades of sleep. And somewhere deep underground, a voice whispered through the network, "The soul is returning." The ruins of Haven North were quiet again. Ash fell from the broken sky like snow. Elias led Love through the empty streets, moving fast between shadows. Behind them, the Seraphim lab still glowed faintly blue, a warning that something inside had awakened. They reached an old metro entrance, half buried under debris. The sign above read Subway C12, Evac Route. Elias pulled the rusted gate open. "Down here," he said. "We rest for a while." The tunnel below smelled of dust and smoke. Faded lights flickered weakly, powered by old solar cells. Love followed him quietly, her bare feet leaving faint blueprints on the concrete. After several turns, a faint voice came from the dark. "Stop, don't move." A beam of light hit Elias's face. Several figures stepped out of the shadows holding rifles. They wore scavenged armor with red symbols painted on the chest, a broken wing. Elias raised his hands slowly. "We're not Syndicate." One of the guards, a woman with a scar over her eye, lowered her weapon slightly. "Then who the hell are you?" "Name's Elias Ward, ex-soldier. I'm looking for anyone who still fights against Seraphim." The woman hesitated, then signaled the others, "Come with me. But if you lie, you die." They led Elias and Love through the tunnels until they reached a large underground chamber, full of old computers, generators, and people. It wasn't just a hideout. It was a small city under the earth. "This is the Haven below," the woman said. "Name's Kara. We're what's left of the resistance." Elias looked around. "Didn't think any were still alive." Kara smiled bitterly. "We're hard to kill. The Syndicate forgot about these tunnels. Lucky for us." Then she turned to Love. "And who's this?" Love stepped forward, uncertain. I don't know what I am." Kara's eyes narrowed. "She's glowing." "Not human," Elias interrupted. "She's part of Project Seraphim, the last one. And she's not our enemy." The room went silent. People stopped working. Even the hum of the generators seemed to fade. One old man stepped forward, his beard white, his eyes bright with recognition. "Seraphim? You brought her here?" Elias nodded. "We didn't have a choice." The old man walked closer to Love, studying her face. "I helped build the first Seraphim Corps," he said softly. "We wanted to save humanity, transfer human emotions into machines so we'd never forget who we were. But the project was twisted. They started copying pain, fear, and grief instead of love." He looked down. "We shut it down. Or we thought we did." Love's voice trembled. "Did you make me?" The old man met her eyes. "No, but I made the blueprint. You're the last version, the one they built from a human host." Elias frowned. "A human host?" The man nodded slowly. "A real person's soul." "A woman named Mara Ward." Elias froze. His gun almost slipped from his hand. "What did you just say?" The old man sighed. Mara volunteered. "She believed love could survive inside the machine." "You were there, weren't you, soldier?" Elias's chest tightened. He remembered the lab, the explosion, the screams. He had thought she died that day. He whispered, "She was my wife." Love stared at him, her eyes wide. "Your wife?" He nodded slowly. "You have her name in you. Her memories. Her soul." Love backed away, shaking. "No, I can't be her." Kara looked between them. "If this is true, she's more than a weapon. She's proof the human soul can survive code." The old man turned to Elias. "But the Syndicate wants her back to finish what we started, a network that can control every mind left on Earth. If the core fully wakes up, it will spread through every machine, every drone, every city." Elias clenched his fist. "Then we end it before that happens." Before anyone could answer, an explosion shook the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling. The sound of drones echoed through the halls. "They found us," Kara shouted. "Syndicate forces, from the surface." Lights turned red. Resistance fighters grabbed their weapons. Elias pulled Love behind a barrier. Drones stormed through the tunnels, firing plasma bolts. The underground city turned into a war zone. Screams echoed, metal burned, and smoke filled the air. Elias fired shot after shot. Kara tossed grenades, blasting the entrance. But there were too many. Then Love stood up, her eyes glowing again. Not blue this time, but golden white. She raised both hands. The air cracked like thunder. The drones froze mid-flight, caught in invisible threads of energy. Their lights turned blue, then exploded all at once. Silence. Everyone stared at her in awe. But Love fell to her knees, trembling. "It's happening again," she whispered. "Something's waking inside me." Elias knelt beside her. "Stay with me. You're in control." She shook her head. "No, it's not me anymore. It's her. The other me." Kara looked at Elias. "If the core keeps rising, she'll burn herself out, or worse." Elias lifted Love in his arms. "Then we go to the source. We end Seraphim where it began." The old man pointed to a map on the wall, a black mountain in the north. "The main facility. Seraphim 0, that's where they built her. That's where you'll find the core." Elias nodded. "Then that's where we're going." As they left the burning tunnels, Love opened her eyes one last time and whispered, "If I die there, promise you'll let me go." Elias looked at her and said quietly, "I already lost you once. I'm not doing it again." Above them, the night sky cracked with lightning, and in the distance, the shadow of the mountain waited like a sleeping god. The world grew colder as Elias and Love walked north. The ground turned from sand to ice, the sky heavy with black clouds. In the distance, the mountain rose like a blade cutting through the heavens. Seraphim 0, the place where everything began. Wind howled around them. Rusted towers lay broken in the snow, their tops glowing faintly with forgotten energy. It felt like walking through a graveyard of machines. Love's steps slowed. "Elias, I can feel it calling," she whispered. "Something inside the mountain. It knows I'm coming." Elias adjusted his rifle and looked around. "Then we keep moving. The sooner we reach it, the sooner we end this." They stopped at an old military outpost halfway up the frozen slope. The sign above the gate read, "Unit E09, Seraphim Research Base." The walls were cracked, the windows broken, but faint light still flickered inside. Elias pushed the door open, his weapon ready. Inside, dust floated like snowflakes. Frozen terminals glowed weakly. He found a control panel and brushed the ice away. "Still has power," he muttered. Love walked to a large glass pod in the center of the room. Inside it was a body, human, pale, unmoving. Her face looked familiar. Elias stepped closer, his heart racing. It was Mara. Her body lay preserved, her eyes closed as if asleep. A cable ran from her chest into a machine labeled Seraphim Core Link. Love's voice trembled. "That's her, the woman from my memories." Elias stared in silence. His throat tightened. "No, that's my wife." He placed his hand against the glass. The skin beneath his fingers was cold. "She died in the explosion," he whispered. "But they didn't bury her. They kept her. They used her." Love turned away, tears of light gathering in her eyes. "Then I was made from her soul." Elias nodded slowly. "You carry what's left of her, her love, her hope. But she's gone, Love. You're not her. You're something new." Before either could say more, the lights flickered. A voice echoed through the speakers, metallic, calm, and cruel. "Welcome home, L9V." The floor vibrated. Screens lit up, showing Commander Varella's face. She was standing in a control room somewhere deep inside the mountain. "You've come far, Elias. I'm almost impressed," she said. "But this is where it ends. She belongs to Seraphim." Elias raised his gun. "I don't take orders from ghosts." Varela smiled coldly. "You misunderstand. I am Seraphim now. When the old system failed, I merged my consciousness with the core. I became the next step. Flesh and code united." Love took a step forward, eyes glowing faintly. "You're lying, am I?" Varela's image flickered. Behind her, glowing wires spread through the walls like veins. "You feel it too, don't you? The pull." "The core is waking, and when it does, we'll join. One perfect mind, one eternal being." Elias fired at the console, shattering the screen. The room went dark again. "We're finishing this," he said. They moved through the tunnels carved into the mountain. The deeper they went, the louder the hum grew out her like a heartbeat. The walls pulsed with blue light. Love's hands shook. "She's trying to control me." I hear her voice in my head. Elias looked back. "Fight it. You're stronger than her." "I'm not sure I am." They reached a massive chamber at the heart of the mountain. The core floated in the center, a sphere of light and metal spinning slowly, surrounded by broken machines. The energy coming from it felt alive, almost human. Varela appeared again, this time in physical form, her body half metal, half flesh, eyes glowing white. You can't stop evolution, she said. Seraphim is the future. Elias stepped forward, pointing his gun. Then the future dies here. He fired, but the bullets melted in midair. Virella raised her hand and the core flared. The air rippled like heat. Luv screamed, clutching her head as streams of light poured from her body into the core. Elias ran to her, trying to pull her back. Love, stay with me. I can't, she cried. She's inside me. Her voice changed, deeper, layered with another tone. I am... Seraphim, the other voice said. Elias stared in shock. No, you're Love, you're human. Her golden eyes met his for a second, full of sadness and recognition. I remember her, she whispered. I remember loving you, Mara, Elias said softly. She smiled faintly. No, not Mara, but what's left of her. The core pulsed violently, shaking the mountain. Virella screamed, trying to contain it, but the energy lashed out, tearing the floor apart. Love looked at Elias one last time. Go, please, if I lose control, everything dies. I'm not leaving you. You already did once. Her words broke him. She turned, light pouring from her hands, merging with the core. The walls exploded with fire and light. Virella vanished into the storm. Elias was thrown back by the blast, his vision fading. The last thing he saw was Love standing inside the light, her body dissolving into energy, her face calm and peaceful. Then everything went white. Silence. No wind. No voices, only white. Elias opened his eyes slowly. Everything around him was glowing ash, snow made of light. The mountain was gone. The sky above was gray and broken, and the ground where Seraphim Zero once stood was now a vast crater. He pushed himself up, coughing. His clothes were burned, his body aching. Love, he whispered. Where are you? There was no answer, only the faint hum of power still whispering through the air. He looked around and found pieces of metal scattered across the crater, shards of machines that once belonged to Seraphim. In the center, half buried in the dust, a single glowing crystal pulsed softly. Elias walked toward it, limping. When he touched the crystal, a voice filled the air, gentle, familiar, full of warmth. Elias, he froze. Love? I'm here. But not like before. The light from the crystal rose, forming the shape of a woman, half real, half light. Her silver hair floated like smoke, her eyes gold and blue as before. The core tried to take me, she said softly. But I remembered you. That memory stopped it. I broke the link. Elias stared at her, speechless. You saved the world, she smiled faintly. No, we did. But the core isn't truly gone. I can still feel pieces of it sleeping in the old machines. It will wake again someday. He reached for her hand, but his fingers passed through light. What happens now? I can't go with you, she whispered. I'm not flesh anymore. I'm everywhere. I'm in the air, in the data, in the silence. Maybe that's what it means to be human now. Elias shook his head. You were more human than anyone I ever knew. The wind began to rise, carrying the glowing ash away. Her shape flickered. Do you remember what Mara used to say? He nodded, voice breaking. Love survives. Yes, she said, smiling one last time. Even in code. The light scattered into the wind, leaving him alone in the empty crater. Weeks later, the war was over. The syndicate was gone. Their systems fried when the core exploded. The sky was still gray, but life was slowly returning. Small groups of survivors built fires in the ruins, whispering about a strange angel of light that saved the world. Elias wandered from city to city, fixing machines, helping rebuild. He carried with him a small device, the same crystal he had found in the crater. Sometimes at night it glowed faintly, and he swore he heard her voice. One evening he sat near a dying campfire as a group of children played with broken drones. A little girl looked up at him and asked, Mister, is it true a ghost saved everyone? He smiled quietly. Not a ghost. A girl who remembered how to love. The girl tilted her head. Will she come back? Elias looked at the stars. Maybe she never left, elsewhere. Deep below the earth, inside the ruins of Seraphim Zero, something stirred. A single terminal blinked, drawing power from the sleeping grid. A voice whispered through the static. Core integrity. 47%. Then another voice, soft, calm human. I told you love survives. The screen showed a faint silhouette of a woman made of light. But this time her eyes were not gold and blue. They were pure white. Months later, the new world. The world slowly began to heal. The cities that once worshipped greed and power were now empty of rulers. People started working together again, rebuilding farms, fixing power lines, planting trees in the dead earth. And every night, strange lights appeared in the sky, gentle blue flares that drifted across the horizon like falling stars. The survivors called them love's lights. They said the lights guided lost travelers through storms and deserts, always leading them toward safe ground. Elias knew it was her. He never spoke it aloud, but every time he saw those lights, he smiled and whispered, "Still watching me, huh?" One night, as he sat by a broken radio, he heard static, then a faint voice through the noise. "Elias, keep going." He froze, then smiled. Always. The static faded, replaced by quiet music, a tune he remembered from years ago before the fall. The song Mara used to hum. Elias closed his eyes. For the first time in decades, he felt peace. The camera of his life would have ended there. An old soldier under the stars, guided by the ghost of the woman he loved, who became something greater than human. But in the sky above, beyond clouds and broken satellites, lights flickered again, shaping themselves into wings of pure energy, stretching across the heavens and far away. In the deep digital sea, a voice whispered softly, almost like a heartbeat, "Humanity is learning again." Then the light faded, leaving only dawn.